Al from Healthwise Enterprise. Pardon me for being tardy, late. It's a little challenging when you go out to your car and you find out that somebody then sideswiped you. So I do the best I can. Anyway, um, can you taste the pesticide in your food? And um, I raw fruits and vegetables are among the healthiest foods. They are also commonly contaminated with pesticides, herbicides, which may damage or change their taste. I just feel blessed by God that He has exposed me to things and products that counteract what the powers that be do uh, to our food, to our air, to our water, to the poisons they put into our clothes. They do it at such a high level, it makes me think, like we used to say back in the 60s, a genocide. It is just purposely killing off people. And I've heard of this before. I could say back in the 60s, we used to talk about that. And now you see articles like this when companies like Monsanto is having revolving doors between Monsanto and these governmental agencies that is designed to protect the, the American public, and um, these companies that make these poisonings, um, they are taking their money to buy off our protective agencies and our Congress, and so we end up getting diseases that eventually kill off lots and lots of people, millions of people, and they keep on doing it. And the the cover is to make money. Well, it just makes you wonder: is it making money or just killing off the population? Because they don't need 8 billion people to do their work anymore. You got machines to do it. So I'm gonna continue to believe in God and continue to find ways to counteract what they're doing. Like I say, one of my leaders, if you can just help just one somebody, then your life is not in vain. And I continuously hear from folks, and it keeps me going, that you saved my life, Mikael. I say thank you, but it was God who saved you. He just may have used me in some small way. As we say, we give God the glory. And it's the truth, because it was God that led me to go this path back when I was 18. And I was in the kitchen, and it was God that told me don't eat pork for a week. And I felt so much better. And I asked, well, what else? have this society told my parents that was food that was good for me that really wasn't. And that was back in 1968. And it had to be God to just open up the doors. Because, I ain't getting no $1,000 loan to open up a health food store. I started with Dick Gregory, just selling that product out of the trunk of my car. And that was back in 84. I go back to 72 when I read his book, Dick Gregory, for folks who want to eat cooking with Mother Nature. It literally changed my life. Back in 68, when Dick Gregory was, in the 60s, period, when Dick Gregory was doing all these fasting, some he's going to fast until the end of the Vietnam War. How do you fast? What's the benefit? How you go around not eating and live? Jesus did it for 40 days. We doing it right now, doing Lent. It's called the Daniel fast, which is basically how I eat anyway, but, I cut out fish and, eggs and things like that. But the Daniel fast, you cut out meat, and it's a lot of things you cut out. Um, the fast, like I say, is beautiful. You get to zero in on your source, whether it be God, the universe, Ra, Allah, whatever you want to call your source. And I was reading the other day, actually, D.L. Hughley. I saw a skit he did, he put on YouTube, that people believe what they see, and a lot of times they believe what they read. It's interesting because this article I read it talk about 90+% of the information is controlled by one source. I mean, when I was growing up, you had channels 2, 4, and 7. You go look at the news, it's different news. Because you got reporters from 3 different stations, and they see, 3 different events, and they cover in 3 different subject matters, so you get 3 different news. Now, no matter what channel you go to, it's the same news, because it's controlled by one group. And they control the news, they control what you see and what you read and what you hear. And then you consider that your reality. Well, that's leading you down the path of destruction. Because the proof is people getting sicker and sicker. But the fast teaches you about meditation, I think. If not, then you want to, all the leaders, the gurus, which is GURU, you your own guru. These things that I do, you can do even greater. That's a quote from Jesus Christ. You came to show us the powers that God has given us. You tap into those powers when you spend time with God through meditation, which is being still, which is listening to God. Praying is talking to God. Meditation is listening. I believe that's, and I know that's where you get the truth from, your higher source. A lot of times people don't want to spend the time being still. And it empowers you. And realize that you're more spiritual than you are physical. And with that power, you lose fear. Like Martin Luther King said, if you ain't got something worth dying for, what's the sense of living? So I don't know where that came from, but it came up, so I let it come out. Usually, can get into the pain of what's going on, but I'm gonna start off here with the solution. Eat Well Guide. It is a website you can go to get not only just organic food that's grown with farmers who don't use pesticides and things like Roundup or with this glyphosate. That's in most of the pesticides and herbicides is glyphosate. The harm the glyphosate does is it kills the microbes that's in the soil. When you consume that food, it kills the microbiome that's in your guts. It inhibits the digestion of the food. And the food don't digest, it turns into fat. And it contributes to diseases. Numerous studies have been done, as is in this report, that talk about how this glyphosate contributes to cancer. It is carcinogenic. These food manufacturers know this, but they rather go to court and pay the fine that's in court rather than change their methods to grow organic foods. They say it's because of the cost. It's cheaper to pay the fine in court than it is to change their methods of growing food. I tend to think that's a lie because it's this website you can go on YouTube, I should say. It's this man who left, I think it was LA, with his family, went up to Washington State, got some land, built a house, started growing food. But after a couple months, there's no more rain, his plants start dying. So he made a meditation. He asked God, what can I do? Basically, God told him to go out on his front porch and look around. He had all these trees. Do what the trees are doing. They cover the soil with leaves. So he got some wood chips, covered the soil. Not only was his food exceptional, the plants were so strong that the weeds could not grow because the plants were so strong. When he cracked open this strawberry, I never seen a strawberry cracked open where it had the water coming out of it. That's how juicy it was. Mind you, without this rain, it was a miracle. Like I want to go watch it again. And it's called Back to Eden, like the Garden of Eden, Eden. And to me, it didn't seem like it cost a whole lot. Some wood chips. Then you didn't have to put pesticides and herbicides in the ground. You didn't even have to rotate the crops. It was just remarkable. So watching that video and then hear these guys talking about it's cheaper to pay folks in court for whatever reason than it is to change their methods of growing food. But Eat Well Guide is a website you can go to get food that's has less chemicals in it. Farm Match, MATCH. It's another one. Local Harvest is another one, and Weston P. Price Foundation. All of those are in the United States. Eat Well Guide, one. Farm Match is two. Local Harvest is three. And Weston P. Price Foundation is four. All those in the United States. For Australia is Organic Food Directory. In Canada is Eat Wild. And in New Zealand is Organic Explorers. Here they say, in addition, you should also adopt preventive strategies that can help reduce the toxic chemical pollution that assaults your body. I recommend visiting these trustworthy sites for non-GMOs, genetically modified organism, food sources that's in your country. Now, we get into as much as we can of the problem. While fruits and vegetables are among the healthiest food, they are also commonly contaminated with pesticides and herbicides, which may change their taste. In blind taste tests, participants were able to identify wines containing pesticides, and some tastes could identify an exact pesticides combination. Although labeled all natural, many foods contain trace amounts of glyphosate, which the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency calls safe. Individuals and activists disagree, which is the basis for its recent lawsuits. Monsanto continues to fight for market shares at the expense of the environment and human health. Through strong arm tactics, they insist are necessary. As I reported in the past, says Dr. McCullough, while fruits and vegetables are among the healthiest foods you can eat, non-organic varieties are commonly contaminated with pesticides. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention reports more than 75% of the U.S. population have detectable levels of organ phosphate pesticides in their urine. See, that's what I'm thankful for, that Chinese scientist who developed this Aquaman boost. I keep this in my pocket most of the time, 75, 80% of the time. I put it in my water. I put it in my drinks. Whatever drink I'm having, to be a water, or fruit juice, or smoothies, or almond milk, whatever. I usually put in it with 5 drops per 8 ounces, sometimes even more. Because the Japanese scientists proved that this neutralized the radiation that was in people's bodies in Japan and in people's water in Japan. And we had scientists who brought it over here and took it up to Flint and neutralized the poisons that was in people's bodies and in people's water. I'm talking about the lead, the mercury, the fluoride, the herbicides. Me, my own nephew, who got that so-called immunization shot when he was 2 years old and been autistic for 20 years. After 2 months of taking this Aquaman boost in this water, not at a super level, just a tablespoon, no, a teaspoon per gallon. After 2 months, his teachers, his counselor, and the principal of the school called his mama to the office wanted to know. She thinking what my son done tore up now, what he done did. They want to know what she is giving him because her son has been autistic for 20 years, is acting normal. You ask him to do something, he do it. He's not disturbing the class because it neutralized, I believe, because it neutralized the poisons from those so-called immunization shots. Kennedy knew those shots were harmful. They was gonna cause problems in people 40 years from the 50s, and he was gonna expose that too. And they tried to come up with an antidote, they couldn't. That's when we only had 3 shots. Now I understand it's 69. So that is another, besides getting these foods from these sources, using the Aquaman boost is another way to fight off the poisoning they doing to the food. Another one we got from the restructuring units, from the water that we give at Healthwise. Besides it being alkaline from the conjure machine, we run it through another unit called the restructuring unit. And that brother has told us if you take your drugs with this restructuring water, if it's anything that's harmful in that drug, it get neutralized. Anything that's beneficial get amplified. And we found out that's the same with the food. It's the drugs. So if you cook your food or, or eat your food with this water, now it get to neutralize those pesticides and herbicides and nitrates and nitrites that's loaded in the food. So there's a couple ways of counteracting. Another one, of course, is praying. It's been proven that when you pray over your food, you changes the frequency of that food. Another one, remember the plug that neutralized electromagnetic field that's come from cell phones? Then you could put your cell phone next to your food from anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes. And it reminds the food of its organic origin and neutralizes those pesticides and herbicides that's in the food. So when I go grocery shopping, I just take my phone, put it in the basket. So everything I'm putting in there gonna feel the frequency from the energy that's in my cell phones and I got from the plug. When I'm out, I put my cell phone between the water that they give me and the food they give me. So if there's any poisons that's in that food, get neutralized. This is just things that's out of this world. And people say, well, I don't know if that's working or that sounds too weird. Wasn't too long ago in our lifetime, I know in my lifetime, talking on the telephone from a little box you hold in your hand back in the 50s and 60s, that was like straight up Dick Tracy when he was talking on his wristband telephone. Now that's a reality. So you can wait till the scientific evidence come out, or you can do these weird things right now. Because these folks ain't playing about killing people. More and more people getting cancer. More and more people getting flus and colds. You can't tell me that's not by design. So we just gonna make a difference the best we can. so we can share the information with each other and make a difference. In a survey conducted in 2013, 71% of the Americans expressed concern over the number of chemicals and pesticides in their food supply. Studies linking long-term pesticide exposure to neurological diseases, birth defects, endocrine disruption, obesity, cancer, and more are only growing in numbers. If therefore follows, if you reduce your pesticide exposure, it would likely improve your health and reduce your risk for chronic diseases. Unfortunately, while research demonstrates exposure to these pesticides is unhealthy for both human health and the environment, the amount used commercially and in residential areas only continues to grow. According to an analysis done in 2012 by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, for every 1% increase in crop yield, there is an associated 1.8% increase in the pesticides used. Locally, this is an unsustainable course as the environmental and health ramifications associated with pesticide use and exposure rises accordingly. Even after years of exposure to pesticides in your food, scientists have found you may well be able to tell the difference between eating organically grown food and those laced with glyphosate and other pesticides. Does your food taste dry? In a first of its kind study led by the University of Case Normandy, molecular biologicalist Gail Erics Cervantes, PhD, scientists examined 16 pairs of organic and non-organic wines produced in 7 regions of France and one from Italy. To assure the best comparisons, the wines were produced with the same variety of grapes grown organically and commercially in the same type of soil and neighboring vineyards, as well as the same climate and the same year. The research carried out 195 blind taste tests by 36 professionals from the wine and culinary industry. The wines chosen were tested for over 250 different pesticides in the laboratory. One of the organic bottles was found to contain traces amount of pesticides. In the non-organic wines, 4,686 parts per billion of different pesticides were found, mostly fungicide and glyphosate-based herbicides. 4,686 parts per billion. In preparation for the test, pesticides were diluted in water at a level present in the non-organic wines. In 85% of the cases, professionals were able to recognize pesticides by taste, and 58% of the professionals were able to recognize all the water glasses containing pesticides. Next, professionals were asked to taste the wines. Of those who were able to detect pesticides in the water, 57% could match the wine with water containing the exact blend of pesticides. The wine connoisseurs and culinary experts prefer organic wines 77% of the time. Participants were able to Participants were asked to describe the taste of the pesticides, offering terms such as drying effects and political blockage. The latter term described as impaired sense of taste brought on by drinking wines contaminated with pesticides. The research believed that tests demonstrated people are able to recognize the taste of pesticides in drinks and potentially in the food. They conclude there is no scientific reason why this is feasible, adding, quote, a larger study will also be envisioned not only to confirm the persistence and distribution of pesticides in the food and beverages, but also to progress from this primary test of feeling to sensory tests on a wider range of pesticides and a larger number of volunteers. Food label all natural, including glyphosate and other pesticides. So that's the trick they got out, all natural. It is still loaded with pesticides. Organic is what you're looking for. Consumer packaged goods industry is one of the largest in North America, valued at approximately $2 trillion. The anti-GMO activist group Moms Across America tested consumer packaged goods GP, CPG lunch food products, finding trace levels of herbicides were frequently present in products from Lipton tea to Skippy peanut butter. The group used Health Research Institute's laboratory to test products, revealing glyphosate in samples of almond milk, veggie burgers, and other products. Even though the levels all fall below the EPA's legally permitted threshold for pesticides in the food, Moms Across America described the level as disturbing. What Moms Across America knows the manufacturers would like you to disregard is that while the amount of herbicides and pesticides found in a single item may be small, it compounds daily by the number of products you eat every day, 365 days a year. Thus, while the level of pesticides all fall within the legally permitted thresholds, they may drastically exceed them if you regularly eat lots of processed food. Moms Across America believe no level of glyphosate is safe, even in microscopic quantities. The consumer group also argues products claiming to be all natural could should not contain any level of glyphosate. The same point has been made in a number of recent lawsuits. In coming months, California Proposal 65, a list of chemicals believed to be carcinogenic, will include glyphosate, formerly known as the Safe Drinking Water and Toxin Enforcement Act of 1986. This initiative was designed to protect drinking water sources from toxic substances by requiring advance warning of exposure. Judge, now, judge increased costs of legal action to defend customers. A lawsuit filed basically, I was reading the article, basically the judge didn't find, it ended up costing the folks that's taking the Monsanto to court, those folks, is costing them more money based on this judge's actions. The lawsuit was brought in at the state level in Illinois. However, the federal judge stated because Congress has pre-exempt the field of food labeling and because the presence of pesticides and chemical substances is governed by federal statute, plaintiffs cannot challenge Quaker Oats labeling under stated or common law. According to a legal, according to a leading food law attorney quoted in the Food Navigator, the ruling does not accurately reflect presumption of the federal government and therefore is likely to be overturned. However, the ruling has effectively increased the cost and the length, the time for the trial. Why manufacturers often do not switch to organic ingredients? When asked for a comment about how manufacturers could respond to the rising number of lawsuits against them, this attorney Ryan Kaiser from the law firm of Amin Tali Upperhite, who focus on the food and beverage industry, said, quote, indemnification clauses can help shift the expenses of litigation to the supplier. It would take away some of the sting from paying settlements amount. Manufacturers can also budget for these challenges and see them through in court, which we are seeing a lot of brands doing with success. In other words, manufacturers are more interested in weighing the cost versus the benefit ratio and making decisions about the production of their goods. This means the company weighed the cost of a lawsuit against lost profits if they make changes in their supply chain to ensure glyphosate and other pesticides are eliminated. As manufacturers find the immediate increase in cost of using organically grown ingredients is higher than the potential cost of lawsuits, they frequently opt not to change their process. This has been demonstrated numerous times in past years, but never so prominently as when DuPont was fined $16.5 million for not disclosing information about the risks to health and environment by using C8 in the production of Teflon. Although the penalty was one of the largest ever made by the EPA, it was only a small portions of the profit Teflon enjoyed from the manufacturing and use of the chemical. The fine did not stop the company from continuing to pollute the environment. It appears DuPont estimate the risk of a penalty and lawsuit against their profits, and profits won. Glyphosate is the defecating no yeah the glyphosate is defecating soil microbes and your gut microbiome. Your gut microbiome is vital to your health, and the microbes living in the soil are vital to the health of the growing plants. Unfortunately, glyphosate is known to decimate both. Decimate, when I looked that up, it means kill, destroy, or remove a large percentage of the life in your guts and in the ground that the food is grown on. That's why we stress and encourage people to eat fermented foods with every meal. I was reading this one article said you need about 3 billion sources of friendly bacteria per meal. We have a product at Healthwise called Java-Dophilus Probiotics. Each pill gives you 3.4. We encourage people to take 4 a day. If you're eating 3 times a day or not. And with each mouthful of fermented foods, it gives you trillions a friendly bacteria. Each mouthful. A friend of mine said, when you're talking about, fermented foods, he said, don't include pig feet. I don't know, it's a little corny joke. I just had to lighten up the moment, y'all. The gut microbiome is vital to your health, and the microbes living in the soil are vital to the health of growing plants. Unfortunately, glycos- glyphosate, glyphosate is known to kill both. Already at the center of several lawsuits filed by the cancer patients, another recent study has linked glyphosate with reduction in the beneficial bacteria in the colon. Female rats were exposed to Monsanto's weed killer Roundup, the active ingredients which is glyphosate, and found that regardless of the doses, gut bacteria underwent significant changes. The study was conducted by Serenizes, the same French microbiologist who led the featured wine study. This group has spent years researching genetically modified foods and the impact glyphosate has on human health. He is best known for his study linking genetically modified corn and Roundup to cancer. While pressures from Monsanto initially led to the retraction of the study, it has since been republished. Your health is in large part determined by the health of the soil in which the food is grown. Industrial farming practices has been in practice for close to a century and have decimated the soil by killing the microbes living there, by undermining the health of the soil and plants from the roots up. Industrial farming has negatively impacted the nutrient density of most foods. As a result, even though you think you're eating some of the healthiest food available, there may be deficit in micronutrients. The active ingredient in the vast majority of weed killers on the market is glyphosate. As any plant sprayed with the chemical dyes, pesticide producers created glyphosate-resistant weeds through genetically engineering. This has allowed farmers to spray their plants without fear that chemicals would this allowed farmers to spray their plants without fear the chemicals would defecate their crops. However, it does kill bacteria living in the soil, and glyphosate in your food kills bacteria living in your guts. That's your immune system. I ran out of time. So you might want to check it out. Eat Well Guide, Farm Match, Local Harvest, and Watson A. Price Foundation. If you want more information, just give us a call at 313-600-8532, 313-366-3438, and 586-757-3438. That's 586-757-DIET, and that's 313-366-DIET. And remember to get 5 hugs every day and get your vitamins and your minerals into your body. Peace and love, y'all.
3BY, Detroit, Highland Park, Michigan.